All right, everybody, this is Yara here, and I'm over here with Christian Griffin, who I did a deck profile with him a couple of days ago, and it's popping up. And then he had a lot of people asking me to ask him if he could give like a little guide on Drytron, and he actually told me himself that he was willing to do like a Drytron guide. So he has all the cards right here that he's gonna explain to you, basically how to play Drytron. So if you're looking to play Drytron, then this is gonna be the video for you. So, how are you, Christian?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Also, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, so I brought up this little like list of a bunch of cards because I played it before Ben 10 was hit and
Okay.
after Ben 10 was hit and the weird in between Diviner. So I just have a bunch of cards for, the more like the I wouldn't say the real versions, but the more expensive versions of Drytron and the more cheaper versions of Drytron, some tech choices, some side options, things you can play in the middle, the main, the side. It's just different ideas that you can get.
Yeah.
But like up here in this main monster zone, we can just get started by kind of like what kind of deck Drytron is, and obviously you can see that this deck is again based on ritual summoning. And we have five main deck monsters, technically seven because two of them are the high rituals. We have their field spell, we have a bunch of searchers. We play cards like Cyber Emergency to search them out. But to go one down the line, Alpha, and this is just a standard rule for all Drytrons, is that they can only be summoned once per turn as long as they're not the ritual.
Okay.
So Alpha can only be Alpha, Zeta, Gamma, Delta, Beta can all be used once per turn. Specifically used, not activated, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people will negate your activations, but it doesn't matter if they negate the activation. That count is used.
Gotcha.
So once it's negated, it's negated. You can't use it again.
Okay.
Alpha adds a ritual monster and summons itself. This is all in one effect. So if your opponent negates the activation in hand to summon, you don't get this. You don't summon and you don't add. You don't
Oh.
get either, and
Oh.
it'll
Okay.
stay in your hand.
Okay.
So Alpha adds the ritual monster. It summons itself, adds a ritual monster from deck. Can be any ritual monster.
Okay.
Zeta summons itself and adds a ritual spell. Can be any ritual spell. Gamma summons itself from hand or graveyard and summons another Drytron from graveyard with 2,000 attack.
Mm.
So you're going to be summoning another one of the main deck ones that are 2,000 attack,
Uh-huh.
or you can try and summon Mu Beta, but 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be summoning another one from graveyard. Delta is the draw support if you have a ritual monster or ritual spell in hand when you're resolving. So you're going to summon, you're going to like reveal a ritual monster, or ritual spell in your hand, and then if you do that, you draw a card, which is really, really good. Depending on what your hand is, or like in later in the game, if you're just searching for things, or like you're already done with full combo and you have enough monsters to spare just to search for more like side cards or something. We have Beta, who's used more into pure builds because stuff with Draconids and maybe like a DD Crow or like Strike things. It allows you to get those banished monsters back into the graveyard to then use again. They can only be activated once per turn, or they can only be used once per turn, regardless of where they move. But there's not really a good way to keep your banished monsters into your graveyard if you get hit with something like Cycle Reader or DD Crow. So if you get Cycle Reader or DD Crow, Beta is a good option, but a lot of Herald Diviner builds don't really play this card. Draconids and Quadranids are the two big boss monsters of the archetype. Draconids cannot be targeted by monster effects, and Quadranids cannot be targeted by spell or traps. They can still be destroyed by them, they just can't be targeted. They both have an effect where if you tribute monsters whose total level is 2 or less, it can do something. Draconids' effect is you can attack every special summon monster once that your opponent controls. Quadranids turns into a Harpy's Feather Duster. And
Oh. Okay.
so
Yeah.
uh,
I hardly see that one. Right. People don't normally use that one, right?
it's mostly a side card used for Sky Striker because they can't target it with almost every one of their spell traps that are on your turn are all targeting. Literally, I'm pretty sure every one of their cards says target outside of the second effects of Afterburner and Jamming Waves to destroy stuff, which is fine. you're not going to be activating. You can't summon this on your opponent's turn anyways. But it does wipe back row, which is really good against Striker because if they multi-roll and set 4, they can't hit this at all.
Okay.
Draconids and Quadronids also do another thing. They have a third effect, which is even more busted. Draconids, during your opponent's turn, can banish monsters whose attack is exactly 2,000 or 4,000, then target one face-up card your opponent controls for every 2,000 of that attack. So let's say you banish, like, I don't know. You banish, like, let's say you banish a Quadronids out of your graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
You can target up to 2 cards and then send them. It does not destroy, it only sends. So it is really good around, it's really good with getting around destruction effects, stuff like Dingirsu, or there's not a lot of cards that protect right now.
Yeah.
Not one off the top of my head, I can believe. But this is a good thing to keep stuff off the field during your opponent's turn. Like with Prank Kids, you can send their normal, or with Tri Brigade, you can send their Karos.
Yeah.
You can send their Tenki when they activate it. Like you can send a bunch of other stuff. When it comes to Drytron, if you're playing the Mirror, you can send their Mu Beta when they activate, so they have to try and resolve from hand. It's just one of those different things where it's really, I wouldn't say it's dependent on the matchup. It's a big boss monster, and it's really good to have against any matchup, depending on which one you're playing. Quadronids also, if it's a ritual summon card and it's destroyed, you can special summon Drytron monsters whose attack equals 4,000. So basically, you can summon 2 Drytrons, or you can summon back another copy of Quadronids, or that's properly summoned, or another copy of Draconids that's properly summoned.
Okay.
The field spell basically works like Magical Meltdown, but for ritual spells. It has a second effect that allows you to reduce levels per 1,000 of a monster's attack. So if your monster's attack is like 2,000, like Ultimateness has like 12 levels, you can lower it by 2. So it becomes a level 10, but that effect almost never comes up. Nova can summon one from the deck in any attack or defense position. And I forgot to mention that all the Drytrons have to summon themselves in defense. The only one that does not fulfill that condition is the one that Gamma summons from graveyard.
Oh, okay.
Alpha summons in defense, Zeta summons in defense, Gamma summons itself in defense, Delta summons in defense, Beta summons in defense, except for the 2 ritual. Whatever Gamma summons can be summoned in attack. They also, which is the reason why people can't play Kaijus in this deck, if you were to special summon a monster that can be normal summoned or set, you are locked out of Drytron effects for the entire turn. It's like Duality, where if you special summon earlier in the turn, you can't activate Duality. If you activate Duality earlier in the turn, you can't special summon. It's that kind of idea. And that's also the same restriction on Nova.
Is that why a lot of people drop the Gamma? Because like the driver
Yeah, like when Gamma would be really good if they didn't have this restriction, because you could activate one in hand, and if you get asked, you just activate the Gamma. But since this is how it works, you can't play Gamma unless it's on your opponent's turn, because you're gonna get locked into. If you activate Gamma or you activate any of the effects, you can't even attempt to activate Gamma.
Oh.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, sadly, these effects have like uber downsides, because Gamma says it can't be normal summoned or set, but Driver can be.
Good.
Minion's Drytron is the ritual spell. It does attack instead of levels. A bunch of newer and older players will look at it and will go, oh, like Necros, Kaleidoscope, Cycle, all of those ritual spells, they use levels. Drytron does attack. And what some people don't know or don't properly read is that it can contribute machines. It can be any machine. It doesn't matter. If you like Natasha steal someone's Cyber Infinity, you can Meteonis Drytron the Cyber Infinity and summon Ultimateness from graveyard, or summon anything, as long as it's in hand or graveyard. It contributes machines. It contributes Zeus. It contributes its own materials from hand. It contributes any kind of machine. Not only Drytron specifically. It does have an effect to add from graveyard to hand once per turn, which is if you have to target a Drytron on field, it loses 1,000 attack, and if you do, it comes back to hand. So some people will like to do is they'll bell it when you add it back to your hand by its own effect because it's a use effect and not an activated one. They'll bell that one when it comes back to hand, or they'll Book of Moon or send whatever monster you're targeting so you can't add this to hand because it has to lower the attack by 1,000. And if it doesn't lower the attack by 1,000, you don't get the ritual spell back to your hand. Another card that a lot of people play in 3 of is Cyber Emergency, since it's a light machine monster that they can't be normal summoned or set. It's a good thing. Diviner is a new card that came out, Lightning Overdrive, that is very important to the strategy that is now really popular, and the one that's been doing the most success is where you would Diviner, send Arclight, and Arclight would activate. Arclight, this one will add a ritual spell or ritual monster to your hand, and depending on which combo you're going into, this can really enable your plays. And the reason why people play stuff like that is for Beatrice, because Diviner gains levels of whatever fairy you send. So let's say Diviner's a 2, and I activate the effect and I send Arclight. Arclight or Diviner will gain the levels that Arclight had and become a 6. That's not an activated effect, that's just part of the entire effect. It does not send for cost, so if you get impermed, ashed, or whatever, Veiler, you don't send for cost, which really sucks. But this is another way how people make Beatrice in the deck to then activate Ava on your turn, and then activate on your opponent's turn to get multiple negates back to your hand. There is a second effect, but people only play that in the more pure fairy builds because you're locked into not being able to special summon monsters. If you play this in a more fairy build, you can summon Ava again, activate it on your turn, get your 2 to hand, and you can keep playing. Now, for part of the other monsters that we primarily play orange. You might see tech cards sometimes play green, but you almost never see purple. You really don't see these two, but they are searchable targets that you can have for ultimateness, or you can also have for stuff like Mistake, Forbidden Droplet. Even then, you can't even really activate Forbidden Droplet if they're trying to negate your board with green. But I mean, that's just something that these are tech cards that you can play. And for the big bads that normally people like to end their boards on are Ultimateness and Perfection. Depending on the player and depending on how far they want to go or what kind of decks they think they're going to be dealing with, Perfection is better in some aspects, but I believe Ultimateness to be great in this meta right now. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at Ultimateness, it literally says anytime your opponent would do anything outside of normal summoning a card, pitch a fairy out of your hand. It's not once per turn. It's not once per chain. Now, it doesn't say that on the card, that it's not once per turn, it's not once per chain. But this is how they worded it back then. It just says when. It does not matter. Perfection also has the same text where it says, during either player's turn, when the opponent activates a spell, trap, or monster effect, send 1. It's not once per turn, it's not once per chain. It's absolutely disgusting. The reason why some people like to play Perfection is because they're not worried about special summons. They can just summon Ben 10 during your turn, like near your end of your combo, activate Dawn of the Herald, tribute the Ben 10, special summon the Perfection, chainlink 2 Dawn, chainlink 1 Ben 10, where Dawn will banish itself out of the graveyard to add Ben 10 back to hand. Ben 10 will add Ava. So inherently, off of, let's say you pitch every card out of your hand, you end with Ben 10, Ava, and when you pitch Ben 10 to negate something, you pitch Ava. When Ava activates in the graveyard, banish 2 fairies, and then add 2 of them that are different level, or different names that are level 2 or lower from your deck to your hand, and that's 2 more negates. So inherently, if you have Ava in hand, it is 2 negates. It's 3 negates, actually. And 9 times out of 10, what you're going to be adding are stuff like Diviner and Orange. So if you get Dark Rulered, you can activate Orange with like another fairy in your hand to banish, or not banish, you can negate monster effects, but you have to commit to it. You have to ditch both the Orange and another fairy in hand to supplement that. For the other, big Cyber Angel cards that we play Ben 10, Idaten, and Natasha. Those are the main ones you play. I have Rash right here only for a budget option in case some people are missing like Access Code, Boral Sword, or like they're trying to play a going second deck. You almost never you never play Vrash in a normal sense unless you're just trying to play a more budget option. It's still a good card. It's just we don't play it because it can still get easily negated, and if it's the main effect gets negated, there's no real point to having it.
Mm-hmm.
So Ben 10 is not once per turn. Everyone knows what Ben 10 does. If it gets tributed, it'll go to grave, and then on the next chain, you'll add a fairy to hand. So, and I forgot to mention this with the Drytrons, is that they all tribute. They do not send, they do not discard, they tribute for cost, which is why Ben 10 is so powerful in this deck and is why it gets abused. With cards like uh, the Ritual Spell, cards like Alpha, where you Alpha Zeta is full combo for 4 negates in hand, and if you're playing Dragoon, 5. And with as many cards as you need, Ben 10 is the reason why this deck also breathes and plays as well as it does, because if it didn't have Ben 10, the amount of searchability that this deck has goes down significantly. 1 Ben 10 is fine. 3 was just too, like, I wouldn't say too much, but it was just, more is never enough. I wouldn't expect this card to get hit, but if it does, I would understand why. Ben 10 is more of a turn 1 card, where Iditen is more of a turn 2 card. You summon both Ben 10 and Iditen in the same combo on turn 1, but Iditen is a better card for later turns because you need to get the Ritual Spell back more than at least once a turn. So you add it back to hand, use its original effect, and then you can Ritual Summon Iditen, add that same copy back to your hand, and not have to worry about using the effect again because you want to use it as many times as possible. Iditen also has a second effect where if you tribute it, all your ritual monsters on the field gain 1,000 attack and defense, which can help if you have stuff like Draconids that can attack all of your monsters directly, or you can have Ultimateness just be even bigger, which sometimes is enough for people. People just can't get over this card. Like in Striker, or if you're playing really like Tri-Brigade and they can't get over this card, some people might just scoop to a 4,000 Ultimateness, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Natasha is a very, 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 very good card because even if you have multiple, like, if you're going to activate this card, the best time is to do it multiple times in a turn, where you activate the Ritual Spell, you summon this card, and since his attack is 1,000, if you add the Ritual Spell back to hand by targeting one of your Drytrons, you can activate the Ritual Spell, tribute the one that you targeted, summon Natasha. This card is also good in time, which is why anytime I'm getting close to time, I always find Natasha somewhere, gain some life points, and then I link it off. And if it's in the graveyard, it has to be properly summoned. If it's not properly summoned, you can't activate this effect. If it's properly summoned and it's in the graveyard, you can banish another Cyber Ranger monster from your graveyard to then target one monster your opponent controls. Special summon this card, and if you do, take control of that monster. So let's say your opponent, like, you negate someone's Dragoon with like Forbidden Droplet or Dark Ruler. You can literally go Natasha, target itself, gain 500 attack, or whatever monster on your side of the field. Doesn't matter. Then you can send it to graveyard, do whatever with it. Activate the effect in graveyard, banish one of your Cyber Ranger monsters, take the Dragoon, or whatever monster you need to take, link it off, or do whatever you want with it, doesn't matter, and then use it for more food, more fodder. Stuff like you can use like into Access Code, into Boral Sword, into Appaloosa. Vrash is here for a budget option if you don't have the money for Appaloosa and Access Code. Access Code is like $130 or something dumb like that. It's super expensive. So this is also another good option where it destroys all special summon monsters from the extra deck that your opponent controls. And if you do, afflict 1,000 damage to your opponent for each. And if you do that, it gains a second attack during each battle phase this turn. It also has another effect where it's once per turn during either player's turn when a card or effect is activated that would destroy a card on the field. You can shuffle one ritual monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So it shuffles one from graveyard back into deck, which can help with Alpha just getting more cards back into your hand. Because if you play a limited amount of ritual monsters, or you are just trying to top deck Drytrons in the later turn, if you play a card like this, Alpha has more fodder for the stuff in the graveyard in later turns. Another budget option for Ava targets is Cyber Petite Angel. People used to play this before the Diviner. We used to play it when Battle Lord was a big thing for Battle Lord's done. We played this for negates if you're playing Perfection, because this is one of the only other targets with orange. This searches the Cyber Ranger monster when it's summoned. Sadly, you have to commit your normal to this because there's not really much you can do outside of it. Manju is also another really good option if you don't have Diviner because it searches the exact same things and it does the exact same thing. The only problem is that it's level 4 and not level 2. If it was level 2, man, like I wouldn't say people would be playing Manju over Diviner, but this debate would be a little more like, well, Manju's bigger and it has, you don't have to commit too hard to it and commit too many resources. Manju is really good if you're going for like a more cheaper option because it does the exact same thing. It just doesn't give you that extra Ava material where later in your combo you might have to banish your Benten off, which is fine later in the turns. Ava, if this card is sent to the graveyard whenever, it'll be in the next chain. So let's go. I activate Beatrice, send one, activate by pitching one material. I send Ava as the effect. Like on resolution, I send Ava. In the next chain, Ava will activate by banishing 2 other light fairy monsters on your field or in your graveyard to add the same number of level 2 or lower light fairies with different names from your hand or deck. So Ava can banish other copies of Ava, but it can't banish itself. So let's say turn 1, I send my first Ava to the graveyard. I have to banish fairies, but let's say on my opponent's turn, I send the other one from deck to grave. I can banish my other copy of Ava and another fairy to add 2 others. And what you could be adding is Diviner and Orange. So you can add, let's say you banish with Ava a copy of Diviner and Arclight, which normally would happens in combo. You could add Diviner and Orange, Diviner and Green, Orange and Green, any one of these little starter or any one of these fairies. You can't add another copy of Ava, which is sad, but you're going to be pitching it during your turn and then on your opponent's turn just so you don't get drolled. Chaos Max is also another card that I saw coming up in side decks. Chaos Max is a really good option depending on what decks you're playing against, because if your opponent doesn't know you're playing this and they just happen to set stuff in defense mode, they're going to get run over by a big Chaos Max that's going to do double piercing, and if your opponent's playing a card with 0 defense, they're going to lose. And they're going to lose to something that they can't target. They also can't be destroyed by card effects, so it's basically a walking Dragoon without a negate that also does double piercing. Chaos Max is a really good card if you also want another game ender. People used to play Amorphate Amor Factor Pain. People used to play this during Battle Lord or a little earlier, only because this is a main phase 1 skip. Also, it negates the effect of fusion, synchros, and exceeds monsters while they're face up on the field. This was really good against stuff like Numeron, Prank Kids, Alistair builds. It was also good against Halky Fiberak decks, but not too much. It's a good card. The reason why people don't play this card as much is because, 1, the deck kind of doesn't need it if you're playing what a normal list looks like, and the effect is an activation to skip the main phase 1. And the OCG is not an effect that activates, it's just something that happens, but here it activates. And that's kind of something that isn't really that much fun. Battle Lord and Evolution, some people will play this for stun, so you can have a combo where you summon 2 Drytrons, you make Battle Lord by sending another copy with Evolution from deck, summoning Battle Lord, activating Battle Lord, and you call monsters. And Battle Lord basically turns it into Shockmaster, where your opponent can't activate monster effects for the rest of the turn. Also, it gets you another ritual monster from your deck to your hand when sent to the graveyard, which is really good because it gives you more fodder to use in the later turns. But that's just something that people used to run. These side deck cards, you have Nibiru, Effect Veiler, Droll, DD Crow, Ash Blossom, Ghost Bell, Dark Ruler, Forbidden Droplet, Triple Tactics, Pot, Imperm, Evenly. I threw these 2, Order and Griffin, because some people, depending on what hands you open, you can end by Beatrice sending an Order, and then summoning a Griffin, activating the Griffin's effect, pitching, getting the Order, setting it, and then on your opponent's turn, activating the order, because what your board could be is a Link Karibo, under it is a Griffin, to the right of it is either Beatrice or Ultimateness, and then on the left is whichever one that you didn't put on the right. And that's really hard for some boards to out, because if you have something that says special summon monsters can't activate their effects unless they're linked, you're not giving them a link arrow, which is really good because they have to commit to it. And that means their link monsters also want to activate unless they're linked as well. If you're playing any side cards in the main deck, the best ones to play are the ones that are level 1. And that's because Mu Beta can also use them as, you can't use them as ritual material, but you can use them to make Mu Beta, which sometimes people have had to do where they go normal summon Effect Veiler, activate a Drytron, summon Mu Beta. Some people have to do that because sometimes your hands can break really bad. But if you're going to play any ones in the main deck, these are really good ones to have, because if you maybe have a couple copies in your hand, you can commit to just summoning one of them on your first turn and making them. If you're going to play any main deck spell cards out of these Power 4 that I like to call them, or Power 3, those being Droplets, Tactics, and Prosperities, the best ones are Droplet and then either Tactics or Prosperity. Tactics is for if you're going first and you know you're playing into hand traps. Prosperity is also really good, but it plays out of Delta. And I say playing out of Delta because if you activate Delta early in the turn, you can't activate Prosperity. If you activate Prosperity, you can't activate Delta. It starts drawing you cards. Actually, you can activate Delta, you just won't be able to draw the cards. So you'll get the body, but the main point of Delta is you want to draw those cards. So that's kind of the downside. But Prosperity helps people search for deeper Drytrons or just another name so you can get your engine rolling, because sometimes you may only open one or you don't open two of them, which really kind of sucks. For the extra deck, a lot of people play multiple copies of Mu Beta because there are multiple times where I have come up and I'm like, wow, I really wish I had another one of these, because it has 3 different effects. On Ritual Summon, it sends one Drytron card, being monster, spell, or trap, but we don't play the traps. You basically will send a Drytron name of some kind, or you'll send the ritual spell. You can send those from deck to grave. Then you can use its Xyz materials as ritual material. So let's say you have a Mu Beta with an Alpha and a Zeta under it, and you go activate Meteor and its Drytron, and you want to summon Benten. You can use one of Mu Beta's Xyz materials to summon the Benten from your hand or your graveyard, or Ultimateness, Draconids, Iditen, whatever. Also, a ruling that came up is, let's say you wanted to use Mu Beta Fafnir itself as ritual material and you have another one under it. So let's say you have Zeta as the only material under Mu Beta Fafnir. You can activate the ritual spell, attempting to summon Draconids or Quandrinids or whatever is 4,000 attack, because Mu Beta Fafnir and its ritual and the Xyz material both count at the exact same time. It's not like where you tribute it and you have to worry about, well, it's not technically on the same time for you to use it. No. Give me one quick second.
Okay. But yeah, this deck has a lot of options. It's one of those decks that you're just gonna have to experiment with a lot to see what your playstyle best suits you. So yeah, it's like one of those decks where it requires like multiple times of play testing, and it definitely, you won't be able to master this like in a couple of plays for sure. But if a skilled person uses this deck, they can almost like beat any deck in the meta, because the ability to end on a Herald of Ultimateness with like 6 Omni Negates makes everything so crazy. So crazy.
You're completely right.
Yeah.
And like, I just got back.
Yeah.
Looking at cards like Mu Beta, if you're playing a more pure build, there also is an opportunity where it becomes a spell trap negate if you have a ritual machine. You have to have a material for it, which kind of sucks, but it negates activations and destroys the card. It's only once per turn. It's not once per chain, but if it's only once per turn, then... Actually... Oh, it's not once per turn. Oh, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
But normally if you're using Mu Beta to summon like the big guys, you're using all the materials in one turn. Entis is also played with Arclight for diviner targets because Entis is a fairy. Whoop whoop.
You playing
People didn't
virtual,
know
bro?
that.
Yeah.
Entis is the only part of Entis you're ever going to use is the destroying effect because I have for a meme decided to summon Entis the hard way, like the proper way, in a locals just for the fun of it. I was trying to BM my opponent because we were just having fun, and I summoned Entis, and I was like, oh, I can't even actually use the reborn effect. Oh, dueling book.
Yeah, he does that sometimes.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, I remember one time I got super polyed and I was like, wait a minute, what are the materials? I didn't even know what the materials were for Entis.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was my list that I normally play.
yeah.
Beatrice is self-explanatory. It's another fairy, so you can banish it off of Ava if it gets destroyed earlier in the turn. It also foolish burials any card from your deck into the grave, which is really good because it sends your Ava, or it can send you another Drytron that you're missing. Link Karibo and Anima are your Link ones, so if you need one Link material or anything to just make into something later, you can always just make a Link Karibo with one of your Drytrons to then make into a Verte. Anima's really good because it steals stuff if your opponent doesn't call them correctly. IP is really good for making cards like Appaloosa or Unicorn on your opponent's turn. Unicorn is self-explanatory. Appaloosa is self-explanatory. There's not a lot of times that you'll be making Appaloosa with 4 negates, but you will be making it with at least 2 or 3. You have to make it with 2, but you'll mostly be making it with 3. And if you make it with IP, it will be unaffected by, or it won't be unaffected. It can't be destroyed by card effects, which is a really good thing because Appaloosa won't lose to cards like Gamma, which some people like to do is they'll like to activate a monster effect in hand or something, and then they'll activate Gamma to blow up your Appaloosa. Luckily, if you make it with IP, that won't happen. You will also have access. Some people play access, some people don't. It's just another thing where if you make it with Unicorn at least, it does become 5k. It does send stuff from deck to grave. Now, it will probably only pop at least one card since a lot of the links that we play are dark, which kind of is the downside. This isn't like Code Talker or this isn't like Cybers, whatever, where every link is a different type or a different attribute, sadly. That's just how this works. Boral Sword is a good, cheaper option if you don't have cards like Access Code, or you don't have something like Dragoon or like Draconids. This is a good replacement option because it does the exact same thing where you can switch stuff to defense mode like your ritual monsters and still get in. Lyrilisk is a really good card. Some people will play Lyrilisk and Fucho, the bird. I like playing Lyrilisk just by itself because it gives me another slot. Because Lyrilisk Assembled Nightingale gets around Dark Ruler to summon Zeus. It attacks your opponent directly, can attack twice, which, let's be honest, the only part that really matters is being attacking directly. But it also has a second effect where once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach one material from this card. It cannot be destroyed by battle. It cannot be destroyed by card effects, and it cannot, or you take no battle damage involving the card, which is really good because sometimes your opponent will imperm this card, and you're like, well, that kind of sucks. So you have to sit on it. It passes over to your opponent's turn. If they don't have an answer to it, which happened to me in the Tri-Brigade match where he bricked really hard and he couldn't find a name anywhere, if they brick or they just don't have a way to get rid of it, then on your turn, you just attack them directly and then make a Zeus. Fucho is basically a towers monster. It's unaffected by all other card effects, and then as a quick effect, you can detach 2, and if you detach 2, it cannot be destroyed by battle, and you take no battle damage involving the card, which is really good because the only way to out this card is by selling that tributes like Lava Golem, Kaijus, Sphere Mode, a card like that. Downward isn't played for any real reason outside of just giving you more Zeus fodder. And then Zeus is pretty self-explanatory. There's not really much to explain outside of it's just the big thing where it's kind of a backup plan if a bunch of your plays get stopped while you're going second. Outside of that, that's mostly how it comes to when it comes to cards that you can play, just an overall look at the archetype. This is my list that I normally like to play. This is basically my list from the deck profile. And if you maybe like want to hop into a game just so we can look at some hands and see how to play them,
Sure.
then we don't mind doing that.
Sure, sure.
Um,
If you want, let me see. So, you gonna do like a test hand, or if you want, do you want to like showcase like the two card combo, like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, of
Zeta?
course.
Yeah, because there were some people like requesting like how to pull off that combo.
Yeah, of course. I don't mind doing that.
Alright, then let me see.
This is my default.
There you go. I hosted.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I'll pick scissors.
Okay.
Okay. Always want to go first. Always, always. So looking at my hand right now, this hand is amazing. For reference, Yada, my hand is Droplet, Diviner, Cyber Emergency, Alpha, and Ava. The only cards we really care about.
Yeah, I can see your hand right now. I can see your hand.
Yeah, my hand is. We really want to make this Alpha and Zeta for the best 2-card combo. Everything else, we search during that combo or we use, but we're just gonna pretend like we only have these 2 cards.
Okay.
We're gonna activate Alpha's effect. We're going to pitch the Zeta to search Benten from our hand. Oh. Summon. Drytrons can summon from hand or graveyard by attributing a Drytron or ritual monster from hand or field to grave. So in this case, we're going to activate Zeta by pitching the Benten to summon. We're going to search the ritual spell. And also, Benten will activate on another chain, so we can search a Diviner. We want to search Diviner in this situation unless we have it in hand, because if we don't search it here, we're going to be locked out of being able to search more. And also, if we search stuff like Idaten over Diviner, we won't be able to make Beatrice, because we won't use our normal summon, but also we'll have to use it later, which is not really that fun. In this situation, we're going to overlay to make Mu Beta Fafnir. On the summon, we're going to declare the effect. We're going to... They all declare, by the way. I'm just not doing it for the purposes of explaining it. Okay. We're going to activate the Mu Beta. We're going to send Gamma specifically. Now, it is one of those things where it depends on your hand. If you already have Gamma, then you can send Delta, or you can send whatever one that you don't have. But in this 2-card combo with Alpha Zeta, we're going to send Gamma. Next, we're going to normal summon Diviner, and we're going to activate the effect. We're going to send an Arclight from deck to grave, extra deck to grave, and then activate Arclight. Depending on what you have, for this combo, only Alpha Zeta, we're going to search Idaten, because we need it so we can add the ritual spell back to hand and make it add the ritual spell back, and we're also going to use it for Beatrice. This counter is to denote that it's level 6. We're going to activate the ritual spell. We're going to use one of the materials. It doesn't necessarily matter which one you use. You can use whatever. It doesn't matter, just as long as you don't use Mu Beta itself entirely. You're going to summon the Idaten from hand. The Idaten's going to pick up this same copy that's in the graveyard of the ritual spell. Add it back to your hand. You're going to then overlay into Beatrice. Now, the reason why you want to make Beatrice now and immediately activate the effect, you want to pitch Diviner specifically. Don't pitch Idaten, pitch Diviner, because when you send Ava to grave, you can banish... Oh, not add to my hand. When you pitch it to grave, you can banish 4 cost both Diviner and Arclight. If you send Idaten, you will have to banish either your Benten or your Idaten, and you don't really want to do that because you need them. You need Benten for later in the turn, and you'll need Idaten for turn 2 and turn 3. So you don't really want to do that. You always want to banish the Diviner because it has no cost in the grave. Like, there's no point in having it in the graveyard.
Yeah.
So Ava's going to add us both a Diviner and an Orange because they have to be different names. Then, if you still don't have any if your opponent still hasn't played any hand traps, if your opponent hasn't played any hand traps, we actually have a negate right here built in, so we don't really need to worry about it too much. We're going to activate the ritual spell for the second time. pitching this other material to summon a Benton from grave. We're going to immediately pitch that copy of Benton for Gamma. Gamma will summon whatever copy out of your graveyard that you want. It doesn't specifically matter. Where Benton this time is now going to add ultimateness. Oh, there it is. You're going to add ultimateness to hand. Now, you're going to activate Meteoness for its graveyard effect this time because we haven't activated this one. We're going to activate targeting whatever one. It doesn't specifically matter. I'm just going to target this Gamma. I'm going to activate the Ritual Spell, tributing off one of them. It just can't be the Gamma. To summon this ultimateness. And if you have this far, it's not really that big of a deal anymore. Like your opponent didn't have any hand traps. And then what I like to do is I like to tribute these two off to make Dragoon. Make a Verte. I'm going to pay my 2,000. Activate Verte. Send the Red Eyes Fusion. And if your opponent doesn't have anything, send all your stuff to grave. And then you're going to make Dragoon. Now, on your opponent's turn during the draw phase, I'll pass it over to you, Yada. So during the draw phase, what some people like to do is I like to go during the draw phase specifically. I go activate Beatrice effect, no response. Cool. I'm gonna send another copy of Ava from deck to grave. Activate Ava, banishing the Benton and the other copy of the Ava. The reason why I banished Benton is because after that, we don't really need the Benton because all of our cards that we really need have been searched anyways. And also, we just need a random card in our hand for the Dragoon negate since we only use 2 cards. So off of only Alpha and Zeta, we have 4 common knowledge cards to our opponent, being 2 Diviner and 2 Orange Light, which is 4 negates for anything that they have in their hand. And also we have Dragoon, which makes 5. If we had Ava, we wouldn't have had to search one of these. We activate it on our turn, and then we're going to keep it on our opponent's turn to activate. Which, if one of these was any copy of Ava, we have 6 negates in hand for every card our opponent has. And if we have 6 negates in our hand, and they don't have something like Forbidden Droplet or they don't have something like Dark Ruler, they're gonna lose. No deck can play out of 6 negates unless they're trying to use Super Poly, which is not really an issue right now because the only people playing that card is stuff like Shadal's, or just rogue decks like Gren Maju or Stun. We don't really need to worry about that. And that's just one of our turn 1 combos. There is some other combos that you can do where this deck can also, instead of making, let's say you have Alpha Zeta or you have Zeta Gamma, you have Alpha Gamma. If you have either one of them, you want to try and get to Mu Beta as quickly as possible so you can send more names to get more stuff. The faster you get to all 4 names, the better. You want to get as many copies as possible. If you have Gamma and you have Alpha or whatever, you want to use the Gamma first. So when you send whatever copy that you need, you can start, you pitch the Mu Beta and you keep summoning them. A good example would be if I only had both Alpha and Gamma in hand, or I only had access to them. I'm just going to get rid of all of it just to show. 2 extra deck. This is a good idea. Let's say I only have Gamma and Zeta. I'm going to activate the Gamma effect in hand, pitching this copy in my hand. So I'm going to activate Gamma, pitch this copy of Zeta. Gamma can summon the one that you tribute from hand. It doesn't already have to be in the graveyard, which some people believe because it's a then effect. Meaning that both of them are the same effect, but they're not simultaneous effects. It's all the same effect, but it pitches, then it summons one from grave. It summons itself, then it summons one from grave, which is really good because once this tributes for cost, it summons, then checks the graveyard to pick up another one from graveyard, where if it just said, and if you do special summon one, it happens at the same time, so you wouldn't be able to summon the copy that you pitch, which is not really fun, but this is another way to make it where in this situation you just make this copy of Mu Beta, you would send a copy of Alpha from deck. Oh, you'd send this copy from Alpha from deck. You attribute the entirety of Mu Beta to summon the Alpha, search the Benten, activate the Zeta that you had in Grave or whatever name that you have, pitch the one out of your pitch the one out of pitch the Benten out of your hand to summon it from graveyard. Make another Mu Beta because you can summon multiple Mu Betas in a turn, and you can use you can't send multiple cards from deck to grave in one turn since that's only once per turn, but you can summon multiple Mu Betas to use multiple of their materials in the same turn. So you can have two Mu Betas with two materials each and use all of them in the same turn. It doesn't matter.
Dang.
Some people are a little hesitant on playing Dragoon because they don't really like the bricks in a deck that already loses to cards like Droll or Mistake. But I think it's really good because sometimes you only end up with like a Diviner or one Drytron in your hand, or you get stopped to the point where you can't really make a board, where Dragoon is a win condition sometimes against some decks. Against Striker, they have to commit Ningirsu or they have to commit a super big access code to it, or they have to just get around using Forbidden Droplet or something. They have to commit something to get rid of your Dragoon, and if they're already doing that, they probably won't be able to kill you that turn, which is still really good because you can hold the Dragoon negate for whatever you believe is the most important, and just pitch a random card out of your hand that you don't think is entirely worth it for next turn.
All right.
But I think,
Do
go ahead.
do you have any? I was gonna ask you. Do you have any tips for people that are going against this deck? Like,
Any tips going against it is the best cards to use is Droll for hand traps. Droplet and Dark Ruler are really good depending on what deck you're playing against. I say Dark Ruler is the best because it's only a one card board negate that they can't respond to unless they have order, which a lot of the time they won't unless it's like game 2 or 3 and they're just trying to win. Droll is really good. Ash is really good. Bell is really good because Bell, and this is a general rule, Ash can hit Alpha, Zeta, and Delta anywhere that they activate hand or grave, but you can only Bell any Drytron that's attempting to summon itself from graveyard or Gamma from wherever. So if you have like an Alpha in hand, you can't Bell the Alpha that's activating in hand. You can Ash it, but since it's summoning itself from hand, you cannot Bell that copy. But if I have an Alpha in grave, you can Bell that copy.
gotcha.
Wherever it has to activate in that spot, unless it's Gamma, because Gamma summons another one from graveyard as its own effect, so that's a Bell. That's a Bell target already.
Hmm.
Nibiru is really good, and what I always like to tell people is always Nibiru before they're about to summon Ultimateness, if they have not activated Beatrice already. So I say that as in like some people like to hold the Beatrice until the end of the turn to add, which is fine. But I like to add it when when I summon it. I like to immediately activate it in case they do have Nibiru, so I can have the negate in hand ready in case they have anything else, which is fine. It's just if you have Nibiru, if they activate Beatrice early and you know they're gonna send Ava, then activate the Nibiru there. But if they don't activate it and you think they might have the negate, wait till they have the end of the board right before they're about to summon Ultimateness. Because you saw in our combo that we saw on the third activation of the ritual spell, that's when we summoned Ultimateness. And if you see your opponent add Ultimateness and they know you're playing Nibiru, they are going to probably try and summon it first if they have a fairy in hand to prevent that from happening. And so that's something that you need to watch out for. Is your opponent trying to make the read on you having like any kind of hand trap, and they're going to summon Ultimateness first. But if it's game 1, wait for the third activation or right before they're about to summon Ultimateness, which you can telegraph because they're either one going to search off of Ben 10 or two, they already had it in hand. And they're just waiting to summon it because they want to get as many things out of the deck as possible before they commit to summoning that card.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense because, yeah, once they set up the whole board, it's too late at that point. You kind of want to
Yeah.
stop them before they get to the full board, right?
Yeah, and like if they can set up the full board and everything if they don't have negates, you can stop the full board on the third activation because if they don't have a Drytron in hand on the third activation of the ritual spell, it fizzles. Or it resolves without an effect, whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
Because if they don't have a Drytron in hand to summon the ultimateness, the ritual spell just goes to grave. Which, we showed an only 2-card combo, but sometimes that's enough. Like 2-card combo and you don't open up another name, sometimes that happens.
Hmm.
But that's kind of what we can see from the deck. Like Yada said earlier, this isn't a deck that you can learn right like 2 hours before a tourney. It's a deck that you can get a hold of in like a day or two because the lines sometimes, some people look at some decks and they go, oh, I have quick launch. I have full Dragon Link combo. And looking at Drytron, sometimes, you do have Alpha Zeta and it is full combo. But sometimes your opponent might have a hand trap, which is in this meta more likely than not. You have to know which way to play it based on your hand, which is why I like to think of the extra deck as like 30% combo and then 70% flex. Now, some of these spots I say flex, but they're like backup contingency plans where let's say your first Arclight gets negated, or like on turn 2 you need another, like you normal summon the Diviner and you didn't use all your ultimateness negates. You can use a second Arclight to add more ritual spell or more ritual monsters to your hand, like Natasha or Draconids, whatever one that you didn't search in that turn. Entis is a really good removal card. I play Chaos Ruler because if you only open up one name, a ritual monster, and then like a diviner, you can make this and dig for more cards. And so this is a really good thing that I use if I open up like kind of bad because I can just send a bunch of Drytron cards to the grave and add one of them. Also, if it mills an Ava, Ava will activate in the next chain as long as you don't pick it up and add it to your hand. So that's also another really good thing is that you can trigger an Ava off of Chaos Ruler and then get the pluses off that as well.
Wow, Chaos Ruler is pretty good. I like.
Chaos Ruler is good. Some people have dropped it just to have another spot in the extra deck. I like to play it because, yes, I could use another spot for it, but the deck already has so many different, like we're playing Dragoon, so it's not like we're really in a desperate need for a big card that blows stuff out. We have Ultimateness, we have Draconids, we have Dragoon, and we have Zeus in the smallest package that we need. So it's not really like we need another big card to contend with. So I like playing Chaos Ruler for those couple times that we do brick, because I have seen some people who don't play this card and have also ran into the spot where they don't have they have like Diviner and a Nova and they can't get anywhere around it. They don't play Chaos Ruler and they don't play Dragoon, so they're just kind of stuck there and they don't have really a way to get out. And sometimes I see that and I'm like, that'd be a good opportunity where if you had that one card instead of playing Access Code, you could play Chaos Ruler instead. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, I'm just saying. But is there anything else you want to ask before
No.
the game?
No. I'm okay. So wherever you want to take it, pretty much.
Yeah, we can just take it to advanced. I'll just play against some random person on advanced unrated just to maybe get an idea of like where we're playing and we won't know what we're playing against when we go to locals unless we just know the person that we're playing against.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
we're just kind of waiting for someone to pop up. Oh, perfect.
All right, and so we're gonna watch Christian over here live.
Cool. We won the dice roll.
That's already a good start, right?
Oh, yeah, it's already a good start. He's playing Droll and Lockbird Sleeves, which scares me a little bit. So this hand is already really good. We have Alpha Zeta here in the form of Cyber Emergency. We're going to ask for standby because some people like to have Lancia, but Lancia doesn't affect us. So we're going to immediately activate Emergency. Even if this gets negated, it's fine. Because we have another one in hand to work with. Our opponent knows we're playing Drytron now. So we're going to try and do standard 2-card combo, where we're going to pitch the Zeta. Gonna wait for approval for our opponent. He's got the Ash. That's fine. The fact that he has the Ash is okay. We don't really need to worry about it just now. We're going to activate this copy of Delta, pitching the alpha, or we're gonna activate gamma, pitching alpha to summon. We're gonna summon this copy of alpha. Oh,
Oh,
he just
that,
he
they
probably
just
knew. I would say he knew what he was coming. He probably didn't know what was coming. But
yeah.
since he negated the alpha and we couldn't get to Benton, that was one situation where if you if they don't have an access to Benton, it is one of those things where it's like, oh well, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Uh, if we don't have access to Benton, we are kind of limited in what we can do because what I was going to do was try and set up a board where we could maybe have Draconids and Dragoon, which, considering the cards that we did have in our hand, we were going to make it.
Yeah.
So that's just something that really sucked. I don't know what my opponent is playing. And so in this situation, I'm going to side in Dark Rulers and Impermanences. Now, I always take out one Droplet, one Tactics, uh, one Cyber Emergency, one copy of Gamma, one copy of Delta, and I always like to take out one copy of Ava. Now, I took some of these cards out. Like, some people are like, oh, why would you tribute one of, like, why would you cite out one of your copies of Ava? Why would you cite out one Gamma, one Delta? And that's because they're already searchable anyways. And so, going second, you want to see more side cards than you want to see anything else. And looking at this hand is already full combo anyways.
Oh, there's
Oh, no.
we playing against Monkey Flip.
Oh, God. It's done. Yay.
Set 5 the FTK. Let's see.
Anti-spell? Anything
Yeah.
else? Okay, cool.
Okay.
So it's done, which is even better. So we're gonna attempt to do the exact same thing. We're gonna alpha pitch zeta. Oh, come on, dude. There it is. We're going to search our copy of Ben 10. Because it all happens in one effect. Where's my Ben 10? There it is. Add it to hand. I always ask for res because some people like to have droll. I'm going to declare, pitch the Benton. He has there can be only one. That's fine. Now, we're looking for, we're going to get the Benton effect, which is still really good. So we're going to add the Diviner to the hand. Now, this triple tactics is like useless in this situation, which is fine. We've activated all that we could. Now, in this situation, I would want to make Dragoon, and I am going to attempt to. The only thing that really sucks is that I don't know what these sets can be, because I'm like 99% sure one of them is some kind of effect negate in the form of impermanence, or Solemn Judgment, or like Solemn Strike, something like that. In this situation, we're going to normal summon Diviner, and we're going to declare effect. Oop, come on. Okay. In this situation, we're definitely going to add the Arclight to Grave and activate the effect. Because we want to get another Ritual monster to our hand, and we're going to try and add Idolton, just for another monster to have. Because we already have Ultimateness and Draconids in hand, so it's not like we're really too squished for Ritual spells. Actually, we could just... Oh, wow. Actually, you know what? Oh. And DB's lagging really bad. We're going to add the Ritual spell to hand now that we look at it. Sure. He's got Summon Limit. That's... You know, that's actually kind of fine.
They have every single continuous trap card in the world.
Yeah, they do, but it's not like it's too big of a problem. In this situation, we're just going to pass it over. There's not really much we can do about it. If they top deck Border, oh, they got Hawk. Oh, okay, they're playing Eldritch, so that's not too bad. If they're playing Eldritch, that's not a Sanguine, because if it was, they would have banished the copy of Zeta out of our graveyard, which is not too big of a problem. But since now we know we're playing against Floodgate Eldritch, I don't think this is an impermanence, but I definitely think that is something that we need to watch out for. Take our 13.
I mean, they can't really, not, as long as Jokero's there, they can't even go into Lord, right? Because there can only be one.
Yeah, they can't. Yeah, they can't. Which is fine. We don't really need to commit here. They're going to link it off into a link spider probably, because that's what a lot of people like to use. For actually, yeah, I think they can summon link spider here, or they'll make this. They're probably doing this so they can at least get a lord somewhere on field. Standby. Always ask if our opponent has anything. Okay, main phase. So, looking at this, we're under summon limit, which really sucks. We can't really commit anything to this board outside of summoning and ultimateness, which kind of sucks because we want to do more with it, but since we're under summon limit, we kind of can't get around that fact. So we're going to activate the ritual spell over here in this column so we don't get impermed. See if our opponent has anything. Oh, yeah, he's right. So we're under that, which really sucks. So we'll switch this Drytron to attack mode.
I had completely forgotten about anti-spell fragments.
Yeah, I saw that. I was more worried about summon limit. It really, really sucks that we're playing underneath this, but we'll attempt to enter battle phase anyways. Cool. He'll take it. That's fine. Main phase 2. He hasn't activated any monster effects, sadly. And so this triple tactics is pointless. So we'll just pass it over to him. We don't want to commit too many names. Sadly, we don't know that he's playing stun. So we should have set the ritual spell, which is fine. We just don't want it to get blown up by anything. He does have a cursed Eldland, which is fine. He can pay to add whatever. He's probably going to add a Lord, so you can get that in rotation as well. Yeah, he's adding Lords. He did kind of open up really good. Like, he didn't open up any Lord, but he did open up enough floodgates to know that he's going to stop us.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have anything, which is kind of shocking, to be completely honest. We're going to set our stuff. We did misplay by not sending this ritual spell last turn, but it's fine. He knows we're going to attack. We're going to main phase 2. There's not really much we can do right now outside of just passing and letting our opponent just figure it out for themselves right now. I don't really feel like they have an idea what's going on, but we're just going to let it go for right now. Oh, he's going to pay 8 for...
Oh, the cursed land, right?
Yeah, he's going to pay 8 again for Cursed Eldland. Right now, he's kind of under a bind because he's locked himself under there can be only one. So he can't Sanguine, and he might try and send Lord target what? He's targeting our Droplet, which is fine. I don't really care about the Droplet. Droplet's fine. As long as he doesn't send this ritual spell, we're okay. But since we have the orange, we're worried about the Lord, which is kind of a bigger problem. And since he sent Eldland, he will get Ascend, which is kind of annoying. But it's not like we really need this orange and this ultimateness to keep going later in the turn.
Yeah.
He can have the land, it's fine.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think there's something we really need to worry about because I don't think, unless he's playing a bunch of lands, he added Conch to hand, I believe, off of. Did he add Conch?
I think it was Conch. Yeah, I think he's.
Added deck to hand, stop viewing, sent Eldritch from hand, and Conch to hand. So his set has to be something else. It might be something. He's in end phase setting Sanguine, that's fine. It's not like it really matters. We're still under summon limit, which really sucks. But this Draken we'll be able to send it off during our opponent's turn next turn. So it's not like we're going to worry about it too much. We're going to draw per turn. Oh, wow. We drew the best card in the deck. So we're going to go into standby. We're going to activate the ritual spell. I don't believe he has a... And we can't even activate it. Oh, and we're under order. Ooh. That's fine.
He had everything.
Yeah, he had order. A little bit of tell there. Yup. So, that's fine. This set, dude, he has every floodgate in existence. Like, come on, man. Um, we can't even really activate anything because we're underneath all of these, which really sucks. But we're going to attempt to go into battle phase and hit directly. He probably has a conch. He has the sanguine. That's fine. I forgot that he set it off of it. In this situation, we are probably going to scoop because there's not really much that we can get over because I don't believe he's playing hand traps. So with all that, we're gonna scoop. I always like to reset the deck only because since we're gonna go, our opponent knows that we're going first, but we're gonna side in some stuff. We know he's not playing hand traps. The droplets don't matter. I think we can get rid of at least one gamma to side him out and be done. We're gonna wait for him to be ready. Cool. We're going to go first because we're going to try and win. And this is sometimes what hands look like. So, in this situation, I'm going to try and summon Dragoon. Because right now, this orange isn't going to do anything for us. He has the Ash, which is fine. We're going to draw 2. He can't Ash that. Oh, look at that. So, I did not perform a normal or special summon. So, I believe I can still activate Ref.
Yes.
So, we're going to activate Ref.
Now I can't even ask you anymore.
Nope. And now that we have Dragoon, this is really, really good. Because once we get this thing over 4K, it's not like he's really going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
We're going to pass it over, really. There's not really much we can do. Because sometimes that is what hands look like in this deck. Which, sucks, but it happens.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll let him have it. Should always ask your opponent for cost first before they do anything, just so you know what they can get. I'm not too concerned. They have the insight. Sure. We'll let them commit. Yeah, I know exactly what this is doing.
I mean, your Dragoon should be bigger than his, assuming if he is gonna activate the Red Eyes Fusion right now, right?
Well, if we negate the Red Eye Fusion, there's not really much you can do.
Mm-hmm.
We're definitely negating that. We don't want him to have that. I'm keeping the Draconids in hand because I want to make sure that if I draw a Ritual Monster, I can use it my next turn for Minioness.
Gotcha.
I can use the Draconids like any Ritual Monster or like any Ritual spell. So we're going to go standby. Gonna ask our opponent if he has anything. Oh, main phase. Cool. We're going to just attempt to enter battle phase. Attempt to walk in.
He takes it.
Yep. Now he probably has something in end phase. He's got the conch. I'll let that be chain link 1. Because if he has the sanguine, I want to try and negate the sanguine. Okay. Cool. He gets the conch on board, but it's fine.
Yeah.
He doesn't get the sanguine, which is okay. We don't really need to worry about, because this is only... He can activate this whenever, which isn't too much of a problem, but with a 5k Dragoon, there's not really much he can do. And he summoned the Conk in attack mode, which is, I think, maybe a misclick. I don't know.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he made it. Do you want to try getting into another game so we don't find a stun?
No, I mean, if you want, I think that would be good right there. I mean, we
Sure.
demonstrated like a combo plus tutorial of every card plus a gameplay, which is like
Well,
wraps
I was just going
everything.
to ask, we
Huh?
really didn't get any kind of interactive gameplay with our opponent outside of, like, just flipping up a bunch of trap cards, but I mean, sure. I do have a replay on Yada's channel of
Hmm.
me playing against what I believe is Cybers. Last time I checked, it's against at Ignister, so you can always check out one of those just to get an idea on another way of how to play the deck, just depending on what matchups you're playing against. I'm gonna see if I can send in more replays to Yada on DV just to get more stuff out there on how to play against some matchups and looking at hands and all that.
Yeah, and then if anybody has any questions for Christian, just make sure to put them on the comments below, and we'll be checking those. But that was a very good guide for Drytron. So let us know what your experience is with Drytron, if you like the deck or not. So,
Well, thanks for having me.
all right, thank you, Christian.
Yeah, of course.